You can wear a suit. You can speak with respect. You can follow every single rule. But some people will still look at you and decide. He must be guilty. That's exactly what happened to Marcus Fields. A decorated military officer. A man who had spent over 2 decades serving his country. But to one officer, he was just another face in a courtroom. This is the story of what happened when a confident policewoman brought the wrong man into court. And got hit with a truth she never saw coming. It started, as many stories like this do, with a routine traffic stop. No sirens. No chase. Just Marcus driving home after a late evening meeting. His car was spotless. His license clean. But when Officer Daniels pulled behind him and saw who was driving, she didn't ask questions. She made assumptions. Blue lights. Quick steps. Tinted glasses. License and registration. Marcus handed them over calmly. "Good evening, officer." She barely nodded. "What's your destination?" "Just came from Fort Braden." "The military base?" "Yes, ma'am." Her eyebrow lifted. "You work there?" "I do." She paused, scanning him head to toe. Then, without explanation, she took his documents and walked back to her cruiser. What should have been a 2-minute check turned into 15 minutes. Then she returned, holding a citation. "Your insurance document is outdated," she said. "I'll have to issue a fine, and ask you to step out of the vehicle." Marcus blinked. "I have the updated card in the glove compartment." "You didn't ask for." "Step out, sir." He didn't resist. But something shifted in her tone, that clipped control some officers use when they think they've got the upper hand. Moments later, Marcus found himself in handcuffs. For a citation. Fast forward 3 weeks. A quiet courtroom, wood-paneled, packed with people. Marcus, now in a gray tailored suit, stood beside a small table. Calm. Composed. A stack of documents neatly tucked in a folder before him. Officer Daniels, arms crossed, spoke to the judge like she had done this 1,000 times. He was vague, evasive, wouldn't provide clear answers about where he was coming from. His energy was suspicious. The judge nodded politely. Marcus remained silent. The tension in the room was thick, not loud, but dense. The kind that makes people lean in without realizing. Then the judge spoke. "Mr. Fields, do you have anything to say before I review the officer's testimony?" Marcus stood up slowly. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse anyone. He simply opened his folder. Inside were documents no one expected. Military clearance. Departmental credentials. And one letter, bearing the seal of the Department of Defense. He looked at the judge and said, "Your Honor, I serve as a lieutenant colonel with a security clearance that allows me access to military intelligence operations at Fort Braden. I was returning from a closed-door meeting when I was pulled over. The officer never asked for my ID. She assumed I didn't belong. So here we are." He didn't have to say anything else. The room went still. Even the court stenographer paused, mid-keystroke. Officer Daniels stared at the floor. But before I show you what happened next, when her own department learned who Marcus really was, and how the judge responded to the quiet power behind his words, let me ask you something. Small Blue Diamond, have you ever felt underestimated? Small Blue Diamond treated like less, even when you knew you had more to offer? If you've been there, if you're tired of being judged before being seen, then this message is for you. Because what makes Marcus powerful isn't just his rank. It's the way he walks through the world with certainty, without shouting, without proving. That's the kind of energy I want you to access, too. And that's exactly what the 369 Manifestation Code unlocks. It's a 3-digit vibrational formula inspired by Tesla's universal energy laws. No fluff. No affirmations. Just alignment. It's helping thousands quietly shift into the version of themselves that no longer needs to chase validation, because it magnetizes respect. Click the link in the first pinned comment to access it. If you've ever been Marcus. If you've ever been silenced when you should have been seen. This is your moment to flip that script, with calm, aligned power. Back in the courtroom, the judge looked at Marcus. Then at the officer. And what happened next? Let's just say. One sentence changed everything. The silence in the courtroom wasn't ordinary. It wasn't casual, or polite. It was the kind of silence that made people uncomfortable. Because when the judge held up Marcus Field's military file, no one could hide behind their assumptions anymore. Not Officer Daniels. Not the courtroom staff. Not even the people in the gallery who had been side-eyeing Marcus since the moment he walked in. The judge glanced over the documents again, then looked at the officer. "Officer Daniels," he said, his voice firm, "you stated that Mr. Fields was evasive, non-cooperative, suspicious. And yet, these documents show that he is a lieutenant colonel in the United States Armed Forces, with 24 years of service, multiple commendations, and active clearance." He let the words hang in the air like a hammer waiting to fall. The officer didn't speak. She didn't even blink. She just stood there, arms still crossed, but her confidence had cracked. The judge continued. "Why was this not mentioned in your report?" Daniels shifted slightly. "It didn't come up." A few quiet gasps echoed from the gallery. "It didn't come up." Marcus could have said something. He could have called her out. But instead, he stood tall, adjusted his suit jacket, and stepped forward with dignity. "Your Honor," he began, his tone even and composed, "the issue here isn't just about paperwork. It's about perception." He turned to face the officer directly. "When someone sees you not for who you are, but for what they assume you represent, that's how respect dies in silence." The room was still. Had Officer Daniels asked for proper ID, had she engaged rather than assumed, we would not be here today. He placed a firm hand on the table. "But maybe we're here for a reason." He looked at the judge. "Maybe this moment isn't about punishment. Maybe it's about clarity, for every person who's ever been dismissed because they didn't fit the image." The judge leaned back in his chair, taking it all in. And Marcus wasn't finished. He gestured toward the courtroom audience. "People think authority comes from rank. From a badge. From titles. But true authority comes from restraint. From knowing you could destroy someone's ego, and choosing instead to teach them." He paused. Then delivered the final line. "Next time, check my rank before you check your attitude." Boom. The courtroom reacted, not with noise, but with energy. People straightened in their seats. Eyes widened. A woman in the back whispered, "That man just gave a masterclass." The judge looked down at the bench. "Well, Mr. Fields, I think you've made your case far better than I could." He turned to Daniels. "You are dismissed. We will review your conduct internally." That was it. No yelling. No theatrics. Just accountability, delivered with precision. Marcus gathered his documents, nodded to the judge, and walked out, calm, quiet, unshaken. But that wasn't the end. 2 days later, someone leaked the courtroom footage. Marcus didn't even know it had been recorded. But the internet did what it does. Millions of views. Thousands of shares. Captions like, "This man just shut down a courtroom with one sentence. True power is silent." News outlets ran the headline. "Lieutenant Colonel silences court after officer's false claims." People began calling it the quietest revolution. And you know what? That moment changed everything. Not just for Marcus, but for everyone who saw themselves in his story. Everyone who had ever been told, "You don't belong." Everyone who had ever been underestimated, profiled, or spoken down to. And maybe you've felt that too. Maybe you've had to hold your tongue when you wanted to scream. Maybe you've walked into rooms knowing you were the most qualified, and still got questioned. That's why this message matters. Because you don't need a uniform or a medal to carry power. You just need to stand in alignment with who you really are. That's exactly what the 369 Manifestation Code unlocks. It's not some feel-good mantra. It's not a game. It's a frequency-based reprogramming system rooted in Tesla's 369 energy model, helping people attract wealth, clarity, and presence without having to beg for it. This is what gives people like Marcus presence. Groundedness. Magnetism that no badge can override. Backhand index pointing right. Tap the link in the first pinned comment to activate that version of you, the one that doesn't shout. Because it doesn't need to. And if this story made you feel something, don't scroll away. Hit like. Speaking head, drop a comment. I won't be overlooked anymore. Speech balloon and share this video with someone who's been silently fighting for respect. Because in a world full of noise, the most powerful people are the ones who don't need to prove it anymore.